How do you move from being the chief executive officer of a large advertising health network in New York with 100 people under your command to being a medicine woman, a galactic queen, and a channel of light and love? It sounds like a really big move from one to the other, but June Lathy shares with us in today's story about how the two actually existed side by side for quite some time. It was only when homeward bound after COVID hit in New York and spending time on her spiritual retreat in Topi Topi in New South Wales that she realised that the latter had overtaken the former and that it was time to step fully into her next chapter and use the gifts that had been bestowed upon her. This is a story of change, of doubt, of fear, but more importantly, of trust and how to really connect to and follow your heart so that you can step fully into the future that is calling you. I hope you enjoy the conversation. My name is Angela Raspis. I'm a business mentor, author, and self-worth educator. And you're listening to Your Next Chapter, a podcast about change and challenges, goals, and dreams, and the mix of strategy and self-worth it takes to step into the next version of you. Well, today we have what I know is going to be a bit of a mind-expanding conversation with the lovely June Lathy, who started as a client and has become a beautiful friend. June, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come in here and talk about next chapters today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It was a lay down misère. It had to happen. This whole series that we're in with the podcast at the moment is really delving into change. Like, I was doing this and now I'm doing that. And sometimes that, that change can happen really easily. And sometimes it's a battle, and sometimes it's an overnight pivot, and sometimes it's a really long, gentle, step-by-step approach. And sometimes the before and after look radically different. And that's one of the reasons I definitely wanted to have you on the show, because you are definitely one of those women who has changed significantly, shall we say, in terms of the way in which you are bringing your gifts out into the world. And so I'd love you to give us a little bit of an understanding of where were you then? And then we'll start talking about where you are now.
Okay, so I have spent the majority of my life working in corporate. The last position I had, I got to the top of my industry, and I was Chief Creative Officer of a very large advertising network, health network in New York. I had over 100 people working underneath me. They were my team. And that was a significant change from when I worked in Australia, when I only had 3 creatives working underneath me. And so being in corporate America and working within the rules and regulations of what that is, and also the personality and the politics of what that is, compared to what I am and who I am and where I am now, is so different. But I totally agree. Nothing is ever wasted. Every experience that we have has brought us to the point where we are now. And it might look on the outside really different, but I'm still the same person I was when I was in corporate America. And my thing has always been about empowering people to be the best version of themselves within the workplace. And now I'm very much moved into spiritual empowerment.
But that's such an important thing. I think if we look back over all of those moves and twists and turns of our life, I think you're absolutely right, is that nothing is ever wasted. And more importantly, you often find that connecting thread. As you just said, you've always been about empowering people. You're just doing it in a different way now. But that center feeling of being purposeful in the world seems to have remained, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my core values have always been around, and yeah, they've changed a little bit over the years, but fundamentally, I believe that we are human beings with spirits having a human experience. And so what is the best way that we can actually be? And I think we need to set our own brand values to be of integrity to ourselves and to other people around us. And so for me, my core values are very much integrity, trust, kindness, community, and above all, love. And so it doesn't matter where I am and what I'm doing. If I walk that path, then putting that out there is what I'm going to attract. And my biggest challenges are people that are the opposite of that. I've found in all walks of life and at every stage of my life, that every single challenge is a gift. Every single person that you come across that doesn't understand or butts up against those integrity, kindness, love type values, it's just showing them what you can be. And if they choose that, that's fine. If they don't choose it, that's fine too. But we are here to grow, and we only can grow if we actually put ourselves in situations where we ourselves are tested.
Oh, it's an oldie, but it's a truie. We do grow from our challenges. We are the people we are today because of what we've experienced, not in spite of it. And I know I've heard all different versions of this, my own story and so many women that I've spoken to on this podcast. But sometimes it feels hard. Like, do I have to keep growing all the time? I reckon it's what we're here for as well. But how do we find our way through it with a little less angst?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really been about just being in trust. I heard this story the other day and I thought it was so powerful. I've got this beautiful stand of trees on my land. They're very powerful. One of them's got a tree spirit in it, as you know. And I often look at them and I feel that they're so strong. And sometimes because we're on a ridge and the wind blows and they drop a few little branches, but they're so upright and they're so proud and they're so beautiful. I heard a story in a room the other day, in a clubhouse room the other day, and they talked about an experiment in a country where they grew trees, but they did it in controlled conditions. So there was no wind. The trees were totally protected. But what happened is their roots did not go very deep into the ground because they didn't need to. So they actually weren't strong all the way through. They might have been growing upwards and appeared to be strong, but they weren't really connecting properly with Mother Nature. And because they weren't rooted, they weren't grounded, and therefore they were very easy to push over. And I'd say that as humans, we are exactly the same. If we're not buffeted by winds, if we're not tested, we're not going to grow. And we're going to fall over at the first opportunity. We're going to fall over. And so I think it's perspective. It's how we look at our lives and how we look at our challenges and how we actually rise above everything that challenges us, because somehow we've called that in. We've called in that challenge. If we're working with people that are not emotionally intelligent but strategically intelligent, and we are very heart-based and they're very head-based, they're there to teach us something and we're there to show them something as well. And so if you actually go through your life and you allow the fact that there are differences in people, but ultimately we're all one, we're all connected, and we're all connected with Mother as well. And our whole life is about growth and how we actually learn and how we actually show our children and their children's children what it is to be rather than to just do.
Oh, that makes me exhale when you say that, how we can be rather than just do. That's one of the things that we certainly explored when I came to visit you at Topi Topi. But before I delve in there, I love that story. It's such a beautiful illustration of truth. If I think about that and I think about, the challenges I've had, and hopefully the woman who is listening right now can reflect and appreciate that those challenges that she's had have helped her grow those roots. So thinking that, your own roots are pretty deep and you're well grounded, when you started being called into this new body of work, this new way of being, how did it begin and how did you respond to it?
Oh, okay. Okay, so let me explain who, what I am, what I do, so it actually makes sense. So I I channel light language. Mana santo ko liamo kikimo ana iamo santo koko. I channel song, me and a santaka, and when I sing, it's like I'm an opera singer. It's got so profoundly big. And what happens when I do these two things, it actually changes the vibration. It lifts the vibration, which allows me to access my higher self, which allows me to then work with other people's higher selves to actually then help them find their direction, or to remove energetic blocks, or to help find cords that need to be cut, or to help find, expose, and help transmute pain into healing. So it's very different from being a chief creative officer in New York. And so how it started was I started going to a place in Brazil. You might have heard of it. It's called the Casa Domnasia. At the time, there was a spiritual healer there, John of God, who basically he channeled entities of love and light, came through him and helped people to heal emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I went in 2010, and I went after I had a dream. And I had the dream the day after I was let go from a company. And I was let go from this company after actually praying for the first time in my life for a retrenchment, because I was very unhappy. My husband, my then husband, didn't work. And I was working long hours. I was traumatized in this job. I felt it just wasn't the right fit for me. And energetically, it was wrong. And so I wasn't brave enough to leave on my own, but I wanted to get a retrenchment package so I could actually then have some spare money to find myself. And so I finished that day. I got my retrenchment. I was happy and sad all at the same time, because your ego still gets hurt. And I booked a holiday to Fiji. And I said to my then husband, I'm going on my own. We had 2 small children. We had a heavy mortgage, and I'd never, ever done anything for myself in that kind of bigness that way. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up and I'd had this dream, and I said to my then husband, I'm going to Brazil. And he said, no. He said, you're going to Fiji. And I went, no, I'm going to Brazil. And he said, who with? Where? When? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going. Such was the power of that dream. And I've never, ever had a dream like it before or since. And so I had all day to ponder what this was all about. And so I just trusted my intuition, which is something that I've learned to do more and more and more and more. And I fell into it, and I realized that the only person that I knew had any connection with Brazil at that time was a lady called Deb Davis. So I went to her house. She's an incredible businesswoman. She's also very spiritual, and she took groups to Brazil. She wasn't there, but when I got there, her assistant let me in, and I said, I had this dream and I don't know what's going on. And she basically said to me, don't say anything else. I'm going to put on a DVD and I'm going to show you this place. And she showed me, and it was the place of my dream.
Wow.
And I had to go. And then I actually put 2 and 2 together. And Deb had told me that something significant was going to happen for me. And she said, it won't make any sense me saying this. She said, at the moment, your star is down here. She pointed to the ground. And she said, in 5 years' time, you are going to be a known name. You're going to travel internationally. You're going to be asked to judge. People will respect you the world over. And you'll be on your way into a spiritual path. And I thought she was nuts. I thought she was totally nuts. But everything she said came true. And then I walked into, I booked the trip. I went to Fiji as well. That was fantastic. And in the end, when I got to Brazil, it was like I had come home. And I can't explain it. I walked into the casa, and I'd never thought of myself as psychic or being able to read energies or anything before. And I walked in through the gates of the casa, and no word of a lie, I felt my heart expand, and it was like my heart was bigger than me. And I knew I had to come back. I knew I'd keep coming back. And I did. I went once a year until COVID. I went once every year, except for the 2014 where he and his entourage came to Sydney, and I was one of the people helping the entourage. And with going to this place in Brazil, I got some massive healings. I'd actually feel work being done on me, and I surrendered. I changed the way I started looking at things. I realized it's okay. Sometimes you have to sit in a crappy nappy, but it will pass. And
I love that. I love that expression. You and I actually, just to come in for a moment, I remember us having that conversation, and I use the expression from the recovery movement that we need to feel, deal, heal. We can't keep pushing stuff down. We do have to sit in there, and that's when you came in with the crappy nappy metaphor, which made sense. It might be uncomfortable, but we have to sit in the crap sometimes so that we can come out the other side feeling clearer. Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And so I think it was the third or the fourth time that I went. I felt that I had received so much, and I wanted to give back. And I remember I'd gone out to lunch with a couple of people that were guides over there. They were very connected, spiritually connected. And I felt very privileged to go out to lunch with them. And then they drove me. They didn't drive me back. One of the guys had a hit to take me to Old Aberdania. And he said, I don't know why we're going here, but I want you to see the church. And so I walk into the church, and it's a beautiful old church. There was no one else there except for his wife, who sees things. She sees spirit. She sees what's going on. I don't see, I feel. I got down on my knees, and I offered so much gratitude and so much love for everything that I had been given. And at that point, I asked to be of service. And when I asked to be of service, something amazing happened. I was filled with this incredible bliss. And I'm not talking about I feel lovely and warm and comfy. It was like uncontrollable laughter. I was like a blimp in laughter, and I got up and I started skipping up and down the aisle in the church. It's crazy stuff. And Sonia, who saw exactly what was going on, and I was laughing and laughing and laughing, probably for about 5 minutes, until I couldn't hold it anymore. And I said, I've got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. And since then, other things started to happen. So I started channeling the language. I had no idea what it was. But even before I started channeling the language, for about 2 years, no word of a lie, I got in my left ear, I got a buzzing, like a crackle. It's not like tinnitus, tinea, sorry. And I got this crackling, and it was like I was stuck in a frequency. And apparently what was happening is I was actually being fine-tuned and lifted up. Now, I didn't understand any of this at the time. I just thought I was going nuts. And then it shifted, and that's when I started channeling the language. And I had no idea what I was doing, what I was saying. I know it felt good, but I also thought I was, I don't know what I thought. And I just let it come. And I found some people that I trusted. And that's one thing I'd say, same as in corporate, the same as in spiritual work. Find your people, find your tribe, find your people that you're going to learn from, and that will support you as you awake and as you rise up, because nobody is meant to do this on their own. anyhow, they explained to me it was light language. Then I did a little bit more delving and a little bit more delving. And then I grew comfortable with it. And I let it come. And the more I let it come and I was in trust, the stronger it got. And as you can imagine, when that's happening and you're working in a corporate job, it's actually really, you kind of really have to separate the two in a way, because corporate America, it's not a very good look to be channeling willy-nilly.
that's actually the experience that I want to, or the scenario that I want to hone in on for a moment, because what we're hearing from the story is that, first of all, that ability or that decision almost to trust your intuition. Now, I really believe that we all have intuition that we can tap into, but sometimes we dismiss it. And if we practice it, if we start, asking and leaning in and seeing how we really feel about something and following that, just the little things, it'll get stronger and it'll become a stronger guide for us. So number one, you followed your intuition. And I don't remember ever having a dream and then having literally the energy and the trust to just go, you know what? I'm going to Brazil. See ya. Like that's huge. So that's that mounting point. So you're having this incredible personal expansion. You've got another job, and you actually went off to New York, as I know, as part of the story, as you mentioned running at the beginning. But so on one hand, your corporate career is going whooshka. On the other hand, your spiritual development is also going whooshka. But the two can't really live in the same space for you to be the fullest expression of who you're becoming. So this to me is when this next chapter moment or, progression is really coming to the fore. That recognition that although you could obviously bring the more elevated version of you to work, the full expression wasn't possible. So when did you decide, or how did it happen that, you just didn't fit into that life trajectory, that life path, and you took a turn into this very different embodied role now?
So it was a process, and thank you for pointing that out about intuition, because I think that I know that it's so important. We think with our brains and we connect pieces together, but we go on past experience. But we're so much more, if we allow ourselves to feel and feel with our hearts, then we can be so much more and we can experience so much more. So like I say, it was a process. So I was in New York when COVID hit. I had just got a new puppy, and it didn't even cross my mind to come home. And I just, at that point, I think I just thought that, COVID will go. I didn't feel into it. And then I had a dream, and then I had an epiphany. And so the dream was around, it was around the bushfires in Australia. And what I was shown was that the bushfires were a part of Mother being angry with us for the destruction that we had brought upon her. And just like that happened to the lungs of the earth here, they were burned, COVID is the same for humans. And that was what I got very clearly, that it's almost like our lungs, not Mother's lungs, our lungs were tested, and that it's like a bushfire raging through us. And so then when I had that kind of dream, I really thought, okay, well, this is serious. And then the next day, I was daydreaming, and I felt that there was going to be some civil unrest. I felt there was going to be some massive civil unrest. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up. It was a full moon. I didn't even know it was a full moon. I woke up, couldn't get back to sleep, turned on my other side, saw the full moon, and it was like the moon was coming in towards me and then going out, in towards me, coming out. And then I had this voice in my head saying, listen to your heart. I went to sleep. I got up and then I spoke to work, and I booked a flight to come back to Australia. And when I came back to Australia, I realised that this is really where I needed to be. And again, I worked for a couple of months. Work were amazing. But, you know, for someone in the my role, which is a very high role, and trying to do the 12 hours through the night, it was very hard. And so I made the decision just to be with my children and my land. And I think at some stage I would go back to New York. But the longer I actually stopped, because it's the first time in my life, and this is the pivot point for me, and it comes back to what I just talked about before, about learning to just be instead of do. I used to do so much. I used to work incredibly long hours. When I stopped, it was like my whole body, my whole spirit was in recovery, and I needed it. I really needed it. And the longer I was with the land, the more I realised I really didn't want to go back to New York. But head me could not let go, because, head me was very much, well, I've probably got another 10 years of work life. Doing the divorce was expensive, and doing what I do, I could really take care of myself in retirement. And I had this fear, this paralysis around money and around what security and happiness that money brings us. But the longer I was in that space, the more I was able to actually understand money doesn't bring you happiness. It's just another energy, and it's power and it's control. And you don't need that much. And I'll be very, very honest, Angela, if it wasn't for you, I might not have been able to make that step. At being a business coach like you are, your incredible ability to join the dots, your incredible ability to see things so clearly and strategize and actually point out the damn obvious to people when they can't see it if it's right in front of their own eyes. And also your connection, your spiritual connection, which is very strong. To find a business coach like you, the universe gave me that. And I feel so incredibly blessed that we met, and you were able to help me to cross that hurdle, because what I've learned is the more I let go, the more the universe gives to me. And so it's about being in trust. And that's it.
Well, thank you kindly for those words. It was a delight to work with you. But as I say to so many of my clients, I am only as good as the clay beneath my hands, and you had so much to work with. That was pretty easy. But these other pieces that you were talking about, the head that couldn't let go of what is, the heart is calling you into what can be. That's that whole moving from the deliberation zone into the doing zone that I talk about in the Your Next Chapter cycle of change. And we can get stuck in that, unhappy, what do I want? Unhappy, what do I want? Want this, too scared, backwards and forwards. And we get stuck there until we actually do choose to make a decision. And that's where that value that you spoke of before of trust is such a biggie, because stepping into uncertainty is damn scary. I mean, I know when I let go of my marketing agency, because I was just burnt out to a crisp, it was like, well, what's next? Well, I don't really know, but it can't be this. So it's a case of just stepping into trust, isn't it? And just just getting started, and then taking the next step and the next step. So how did those steps work out for you? Where are we now?
So right now, so I've talked about my land. So let me talk a little bit more about it, and then it will make sense. So at the same time as the first time I went to Brazil, about 3 months after that, I found this land that we used as a holiday home. When I was in Australia, And then we Airbnb'd it. And I remember the day that we bought it, I was skipping on the land. I was so happy. It was like I had this
I think that was correct. You were so happiness. I think that's it. You were embodying happiness as you were skipping about.
I was. And when I got divorced, all I wanted from the divorce was to keep Topi Topi. And so where I'm at now is I've actually I'm making it into a retreat. I've had my first client who stayed here who she's on my LinkedIn. I put her up this morning actually. She told me that in no uncertain terms I had changed her life with what I was able to do here. And so that gave me validation that what I'm doing is exactly right. I struggled with all sorts of things before I actually got to this space. One of them was, what do I charge? How can I charge? Because this is gifts from the divine. I can do everything from cord cutting to lifting vibrations to energy work. And the more I practice, the more I access. And I've been told in other lives I've been a medicine woman, I've been a galactic queen, I am a high priestess of light. None of this makes any sense. and so it's very hard to explain to people. But where I've actually got to is I don't need to understand. I just take what is divinely given to me to help others, and now I'm helping others. And so I'm running retreats, I'm running one-on-one retreats, I'm running group retreats, I'm running the crystal bed healing. I've got a beautiful crystal bed house that I can talk about how that materialized. It's amazing. I'm running circles for mainly local women are coming to the circles. And I offer one-on-one channeling sessions, remote and in person. And the feedback has been incredible. And so, again, trust. The more I trust, the more I'm given.
Yeah, that's the key one. The more I trust, the more I'm given. And for me, I've often heard the stories and lent into the stories of so many women, and there's this beautiful blend. It's this feeling of desire. You got to bring in the trust, but you've also got to take action. So we can't sit and wait for things to be dropped in our lap. We work with the tools that we have, and more emerges as we move forward. I mean, with myself, when I closed the agency and stepped away from consulting and lent into mentoring, one of my realizations over the years that started rising up more and more was, okay, I'm helping all of these people with business development strategy and, putting shape and form around their ideas, but a lot of people aren't taking action on them. Why is that? And what I realized and what was delivered to me was the journey that I'd taken from my own recovery from alcoholism had taken me from the self-loathing space internally, because on the outside you wouldn't have known, but the self-loathing space, and I had to work through all of these layers to get to this self-worth space. And I recognized that's what was missing from so many people. And when I could reconnect them into that sense of self-worth, then suddenly they could take action. But that idea didn't just arrive in my lap. That was a growing understanding as I kept moving forward, much like you've got this growing understanding and expansion of the skills and the gifts that are sitting, within you, the more you use them. So I guess what I'm really saying with this summary is that whoever's listening, we've got to take what's here and work with it, not wait until it's perfectly formed, because this is an evolution, isn't it? It's not this sudden revolution. It's a gradual change, and we just continue to grow, and we learn more, and we know more, and we do more. And we be more. Even though
we do be more. We do be more. And I would actually challenge anyone that is unhappy to actually feel into, not think about why you're unhappy, but feel into it. And then why wouldn't you change? Why wouldn't you change it? And for so many, there's the self-worth, the self-love piece. Am I good enough to do this? Am I good enough to do I deserve this? But there's also that thing, that fear. And And so I'll give you an example of trust and how the universe has your back. So, and you know this because we were working together on my website about how the retreat looks, and I bring you and totally pivot and go, it's not about me, it's about the land as well as me. Angela was so good. And, I had a list of, I can teach people how to journal properly. I can teach them about routine. I can teach them about chakra clearing. I can teach them about gratitude. I can teach them ceremony. I can teach them la, 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 la. But what am I going to do? And none of it felt right. Like, yes, I know all of that stuff, but is that what I spell out that happens when you come here? Because that's not actually what happens. What happens is whatever you need, and the land will give it to you, and I will know because I intuitively feel in. But I asked my guides, and I said, so what do I need? Like, I need something. And I got this very clear message. I channeled this message. So when I channel, I often record myself so I know what I've said, because most of the time I don't remember, which is part of the process in itself. Mm. And they said, go inside and write the Academy of Light handbook. And I'm like, yeah, right. So I did. And I wrote this handbook in 3 or 4 hours, and it's perfect because it's so simple, but it really deals with, in one of the chapters, it's all about letting go of fear. And I'm just going to read one paragraph from it, because yes, I think that the fear thing, and the fear around money and the fear around, am I actually going to be able to make a living if I switch from this to this, is what holds so many of us back. And indeed, it held me back for such a long time. Okay. So letting go of fear. Fear paralyzes. It keeps you in place. It comes from ego, your safe space, the place you know, even if you don't love it. Money is a big fear, or lack thereof. It's a system of control and power. It has its energy, but it should never be the energy that drives you. It should not deter your actions, your heart, your life. As if this is all you have nothing but material wealth. Some of the happiest people in the world on the surface have nothing, but they have happiness. And who are you to say their world is nothing? How valuable is your happiness to you? If you really think what they have, you probably can't even put a price on it. And that's exactly the point. So I'll stop it there. But again, this handbook which is available on my website if anyone wants it, when I help people, there's always a chapter that seems relevant at that time, at that process. But it was in me, but it wasn't in me. It came through me because I asked for something to be delivered. And again, I'd say the more you trust, see it, and you can be it. Treat people with kindness, treat people with love, try and understand their indecisions, and don't judge. Just love is all there is. And so if you live your life based around some very, very simple premises, you don't need that much except for love. But actually, you'll have so much abundance coming to you regardless.
I think trust, love, and courage are all related to one another, and they're all, things that we need to step into these next chapters. Well, June, it's been a delight. We've only got really in the 45 minutes we've spoken, the time has flown, but we've only really scratched the surface of the depth of what it is that you've been experiencing and you offer. But on this particular conversation, to really give this reassurance that one can be here and there, two completely different things at the same time, and then make a choice as to which one is going to draw you forward. And I'd certainly encourage anyone listening to go off to your website, which is topitopiretreat.com. Topi is spelled TOPI, so topitopiretreat.com. And yes, you can download a free copy of the Academy of Light Handbook, which is, I've got one in my hands as we speak, which I got from you. Thank you. And I know that it provides reassurance to somebody, and then just almost puts a little bit of a spiritual rocket up your butt, if I can say it like that, to give it a go, to allow yourself to follow what it is that's calling you. So any sort of, I guess, last thoughts for that woman who's standing on the edge of doing exactly that? What would you say to her?
I'm actually going to say it in light language, and I think I'm going to bring through a very, very short sound. It's about feeling into your heart. So this vibration, for anyone that's not quite there, if you just close your eyes and put your feet on the floor, on the ground outside if you can, and feel into your heart and see what comes through.
Beautiful. Feel into your heart and see what comes through. I can't think of a better way to bring this particular conversation to a close. But I'd like to put a little ... after it, because I love to know from each of the wonderful women I'm having these conversations with in this series, would you like to make a contribution to the Your Next Chapter playlist? This is a Spotify list that we've got, which is full of inspiration and groundedness, both of the things that you need to sort of push yourself a little bit forward, and also a book or two. I'm such a fan of books, as you know, having written one, but also have read goodness knows how many in my lifetime. So it's great to get some suggestions from my guests as well. So what would you like to share there?
Okay, so I have two songs that I love for different reasons. The first one is Bohemian Rhapsody. And I love it because it broke all the rules, and it was so fun at the time, and it still is. And every time it comes on, I sing my heart out, and it's not just me, everyone else does as well.
Absolutely.
So if it's not already on there, get it on there, girlfriend.
Done. I love that recognition. I love that recognition that it broke all the rules. It didn't behave like it was told it should. It broke all the rules. That's a beautiful inclusion. And what's the second one?
Okay, the second one is Hallelujah, sung by Katie Lang. Katie Lang, for me, has the voice of an angel. She is so incredibly beautiful. I'm getting goosebumps even as I'm saying it out loud. And I love this song as well, because every single day there are so many Hallelujah moments if only we just stop and listen and stop and see and stop and feel. But small achievements, small little moves forward in everything we do is why we're here. And so I love it just for that. And a book.
and a book.
I'm just going to give you one book, which is my favourite book of all time. Michael Singer. No, he wrote the Untethered Soul.
Yeah.
I actually love his other book even more, which is The Surrender Experiment. Because that's basically what I'm living right now. So it's very much about just letting things come to you rather than think that you have to act a certain way. What if the universe showed you a different way, and just act one step and 1 foot in front of another? And that book changed my life.
Oh, it's a great one, actually. I remember reading The Untethered Soul, and I was on a plane. I kept putting it down going, whoa. And then it was really expanding my consciousness. And then a friend told me that he also had the surrender experiment. And on the surface, the word surrender in our conditioned perspective is often giving up. But I think it's more, to be honest, it's giving over. It is letting go. It's a huge part of the recovery movement, that when we stop living in the problem and start allowing ourselves to live in the solution, the problem goes away. And I think that letting go. Well, I know, not think, I know to the core of my being that letting go and allowing like spirit, for want of a better description, to come in and show me a new way of living was definitely the cornerstone of my own surrender experience. And then this road, the 16-year journey into recovery in a completely different life. So that one, totally with you on that one, my darling, totally with you. So thank you. Those are wonderful additions to both of the lists that I'm compiling from all our guests, and the inspiration that you've provided today, that beautiful contrast of how you can be, at the corporate beast, so to speak, the corporate animal, and then choosing to trust and move into a whole completely new direction was just a gorgeous example of what's possible. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me here. And the one last thing that I want to say is that I loved my corporate life. I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the learning. I loved the experience of that. But I finally recognized it was time to shift. And so you don't have to hate something to shift.
No.
It's just listening to your heart. Mm.
Sure. That is the perfect observation. Thank you, my darling.
Okay.
And to you, our lovely listener, I really hope that you've managed to pause and allow the wisdom and the insights that June has shared with us when she's been recounting this personal experience, this growth, this journey. That central core that we're hearing is trust yourself. You don't have to do it any way that other people tell you it should be. So often I think we look for solutions outside of ourselves where the answers are inside. Yes, we may step out and ask for mentors and assistance, but that's really to enhance the idea that is already true for you, that's inside. So if you're sitting somewhere at the moment that doesn't feel quite right, or even, as June has said, it's not that she didn't like what she was doing, but there was something else that was more her that was calling. So if that's the experience for you, sometimes it can be just a little pirouette, a wee change in the business that you have. And sometimes it can be a great big leap across the void into something completely new. Whichever a next chapter looks like for you, that's the key. It is for you. So please follow that heart that you've been connected to today, and let's see what unfolds. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us today, and I look forward to reconnecting on the next episode of the podcast. Until then, take very good care.